For over a century, explorers viewed overgrown ruins like these through a romanticized myth, a peaceful society of stargazers that simply vanished into the jungle. Modern multidisciplinary research reveals a different reality, a protracted and complex systemic failure. By the late Classic period, the Maya had built a society characterized by a synthesis of mathematics, astronomy, and religion. They independently conceptualized the mathematical zero as a functional placeholder, utilizing a base 20 system for complex calculations. This computational engine allowed them to track celestial mechanics and predict solar eclipses with incredible precision. The political linchpin of the society was the Kuhul Ajal, or divine king. Rulership was centralized around the person of the king, whose authority was perceived as a mediation between the mortal populace and the supernatural realm. His primary duty was performative. Through elaborate public rituals and bloodletting, he was believed to appease the deities and ensure the arrival of seasonal rains. Airborne LiDAR mapping recently stripped back the jungle canopy to expose a landscape that was heavily terraformed and deeply interconnected. Instead of isolated ceremonial centers, the technology revealed a continuous, heavily managed urban and peri-urban sprawl. The resulting data shows that the southern lowlands housed between 9.5 and 16 million inhabitants. To support a population density 45% higher than historical estimates, the Maya moved beyond slash-and-burn farming, terracing hillsides and constructing networks of raised fields within seasonal swamps. This intensive engineering pushed the carrying capacity of the environment to its absolute biological limit. By operating at maximum capacity, the Maya left no margin for error for the moment the climate began to deteriorate. High-resolution paleoclimatology, utilizing oxygen isotopes from cave stalagmites, has identified an era of devastating meteorological volatility. The data reveals 8 distinct severe wet season droughts between 8871 and 1021. The most significant event was an unbroken 13-year dry spell, where total regional rainfall dropped as much as 52% below historical averages. The Maya inadvertently amplified these natural shifts through aggressive deforestation. To produce a single square meter of the lime plaster that coated their monumental pyramids and plazas, they had to harvest and burn approximately 20 mature trees. As the cities expanded, the mature forest canopy was systematically removed. Replacing the dark forest with reflective white plaster and lighter agricultural crops altered the region's albedo, or surface reflectivity. The lighter landscape reflected solar energy back into space, cooling the ground and reducing the moisture transpired by plants. This lack of atmospheric moisture suppressed precipitation patterns, accounting for up to 60% of the total drying effect. This resource exhaustion is visible in the construction materials of Tikal. For centuries, builders used durable, old-growth sapodilla wood for temple lintels. Around AD 741, they abruptly transitioned to logwood, an inferior species from swamps, indicating they had exhausted mature hardwood trees within a viable transport radius. Simultaneously, isotopic bone analysis reveals that the elite class had developed a hyper-specialized dietary reliance on a single drought-intolerant crop, maize. By narrowing their food base to an ecologically sensitive plant, the leadership engineered a biological vulnerability that made adaptation to the shifting climate impossible. By burning rain-making forests for monuments and relying on a thirsty crop, the Maya weaponized their environment. When mega-drought struck, the agricultural system failed entirely. As droughts dragged on for decades, the divine kings failed to bring rain. This exposed them as powerless, destroying the theological foundation of their rule. When the gods appeared to ignore the king's sacrifices, the Kuhul Ahau lost his divine mandate. The social contract dissolved. Millions of commoners, physically straining under overpopulation and failing soils, stopped supporting the elite urban centers. Excavations show that palaces and royal monuments were intentionally smashed, burned, and defaced by their own inhabitants to permanently sever the power they represented. Warfare underwent a horrific transformation, escalating from ritualized status rivalry into total conflict. The new objective was the absolute annihilation of rival states and the forceful acquisition of dwindling resources. Scorched earth tactics resulted in the complete immolation and subsequent abandonment of entire urban centers. Forensic evidence from the port city of Kangkwen documents this brutality. Archaeologists discovered a mass grave containing 31 executed members of the city's nobility, men, women, and children, dumped into a sacred stone cistern. After the massacre, the victors ritually terminated the city, leading to its permanent abandonment. The definitive marker of this collapse is epigraphic silence, the abrupt cessation of long-count stone monument carving across the southern lowlands. As the political infrastructure shattered, the capacity to record history vanished. By AD 909, the practice of recording time disappears entirely. The collapse of the South was the violent end of a rigid political system that fundamentally refused to adapt to a changing environment. Despite the ruin in the South, the civilization continued. The northern Yucatan Peninsula faced the same broad climatic stressors, but managed to reorganize and flourished. The North possessed a distinct hydrological advantage. While the South relied on seasonal rainfall captured in reservoirs, the North featured a shallow water table punctured by thousands of natural sinkholes, known as cenotes. These provided reliable, year-round access to the subterranean aquifer, buffering them against the droughts that decimated the interior. The northern Maya enacted political reforms, abandoning the vulnerable divine kingship model. Cities like Chichen Itza adopted a system known as multipal, or joint rule. Power was shared among a council of elite lineages, creating a pragmatic and administratively flexible structure that could adapt to economic crises without a total ideological collapse. Economically, as interior trade routes were choked by warfare, the center of gravity shifted to the coasts. Entrepreneurial groups established a mercantilist maritime network, utilizing large draft ocean-going canoes to move essential goods like salt, honey, and obsidian around the Yucatan coast, bypassing the warring jungles of the interior. Today, an estimated 7 to 11 million direct Maya descendants live in their ancestral homelands. They continue to speak over 30 Mayan languages and maintain traditional agricultural and cosmological practices that outlasted the Southern kings by a millennium. The collapse of the southern lowlands documents the fatal intersection of human ambition and uncompromising environmental limits. It marks the threshold crossed when a complex society degrades the biosphere its survival depends on.